Thank you, Chris. So I know that Matt's on the line and Jamie's on the line. Who else do we have on? Deb?
Yep, looks like Craig's on, David's on, Deb's here, Gail's here, Greg, Jamie, Kirk, Kathy, Matt, and Millie.
All right. All right, let the regulations meeting begin. I'm calling the regulations meeting to order. It is 12:03 p.m. So this was a session that we decided would be a brief tutorial. And before I get into the cut and dried aspects of the statutes and regs that I sent, and Chris, you might want to put up the first item we're going to look at is General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 2. Board members, I have sent 3 regulations with the entire set of drafts, because as you recall at the last meeting, Gail and other folks wanted to see all the drafts. So I started with those 3, 7.0, 2.0, and 8.00. So before we adjourn, we should decide what we're going to which one we're going to tackle first. So you have those 3 sections with all prior drafts. In terms of final drafts, you have 202, 206, 207, 208, 210, 211, 303, 304, 305, 306, 309, and 5.0. And I think there are some others, but I think we've got enough to start with. So, excuse me, I wanted to run through the statute and then delve a little bit into the specific mechanics of how we're going to get this done. I do think it's doable by the end of the calendar year. The fiscal year, of course, is July, so we're not going to make that. But I think that we can get this done by the end of 2023. I might be wishful thinking, but obviously we looked at Section 2A. We have to hold a public hearing, and we have to have the small business impact statements. And for those sections that I've already sent, 2.0, 7.0, and 8.0, you do have the small business impact statements for those. We'll just have to review them. But this is our guidepost in terms of the small business impact statement that has to accompany the proposed changes. So I want to, any questions about the statute itself? Okay, I want to delve into the regulations manual. And Chris, if you could pull that up. I'm going to start everyone for your reference at page 3, which is part 1, the regulation process. And all the manual does is give us, this is going to be our guidebook on how we're going to get this done. And so I am skipping the part about emergency regulations because we're not doing this on an emergency basis. But on, pardon me, page 3, all of this applies to the board. Specifically, I'm looking at the first set of bullet points, violations of we are under this statute because you impose, the board imposes fines. We don't imprison people, but we have constitutional right guaranteed to certain adjudicatory hearings under obviously the application process under 7.00. So this applies to the board. Excuse me, 21 days before, and I'm just going to hit highlights because you guys can read it all for yourselves. And then at the next regulations meeting in May, any questions that you have, I'm happy to answer about the process. So 21 days before the public hearing, we have to publish in a newspaper that we're going to hold the hearing. We have several newspapers that we'll have to choose throughout the state. So 3 to 4 papers that we'll publish in, obviously the Globe, the Herald, and we'll pick a few others. And we can come to that decision by consensus. Gail, I know you're out there in Western Mass, or anyone else, not limited to Gail, who would suggest major newspapers. I think we should take the Globe, the Herald, maybe the Worcester Telegram for Central Mass, and then one in Western Mass. We don't have to limit to 3 or 4. We can publish in as many recognized newspapers throughout the state. We can publish in trade journals or professional publications as well. We can choose
Beverly,
to hold.
excuse me, I just want to
Go
mention,
ahead.
so you know, that
Please.
I believe it's the Springfield Republican. I believe they're still publishing. That's the name of the Springfield paper. And I would say, like the LSPA, we would publish, we would have them, can't they send something out as an announcement?
Well, they should publish on their website or newsletter. Yes. All critical partners to this we will make sure. I will, Gail, compile a list, and board members, please feel free to email me if you have a favorite newspaper. I mean, there is the Cambridge Chronicle. We're not limited to several, can be as many as we want. So it just depends. We want to make sure that we cover the waterfront. So not just Boston. I mean, we obviously have to publish in Boston, but there may be trade papers. So I'm happy to take your suggestions and bring them back to the full body about which newspapers we use. I'm not married to anything other than the Globe and the Herald, but I do want to include Central Mass and Western Mass, and there may be, papers that are bigger out there. I don't know.
Yeah, the other one
okay.
can also
You probably
be,
want to include New Bedford too, that area.
yeah, I was just going to say New Bedford and the Cape Cod Times. That covers the 15 communities
Cape Cod
plus
Times,
the
absolutely.
islands and South Shore as well. So, okay, thank you.
Yep, no, absolutely. Cape Cod Times is a big one, and we'll need something on the North Shore. So I'm happy to take your list. Yes.
I also just have a question. I don't need an answer now, but just stemming from the regulatory impact statement and then the regulation review checklist that you provided us with for examining in preparation for this meeting. I don't know if there are any requirements also associated that touch on environmental justice, whether there's a need to translate this public hearing notice. So it's just a question that maybe we can work through the EEA folks.
What do you mean, translate into Portuguese or Spanish or other languages? Or
I do not know.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Millie.
I apologize. With so many recent rec packages that I've seen during the course of just work here, there is also, I understood that there's also an intention to ensure that we can be as proactive as possible when it comes to
Well,
providing multiple languages, or at least acknowledging that if anyone needs a translation to reach back to the board? Just a thought.
yeah, there is. Yeah, no, there is a notice for that. I'm gonna get to that. But yes, the excuse me, pardon me. The small business impact statements obviously were dated quite a while back, and I would have to update them. I'm sure that the last governor, that Governor Baker made some changes, and possibly Governor Healy, so I would incorporate those, yes. So thank you for that. The other, and I also am asking you to think about board members' professional publications. I don't know if there are trade newspapers that you think, trade journals or something that you think should be included in the publication portion of this. Now, when we get to the hearings part, it's very likely that we will hold several hearings to break this up into parts. I don't know that we'll be able to do it in just one fell swoop. It's perfectly permissible. I'm reading from page 3 that we have more than one hearing. We do have to have the notice. If we hold more than one hearing, the second one will follow the same precedent of 21 days before any public hearing. We have to let people know that we're going to have the part 2 or part 3 or however long it takes us to get through this. Excuse me. So, and this, Millie, may be the next part that I'm going to talk about is maybe piggybacking on your comments, because I'm looking at page 3, what the notice must include. And obviously it's our statutory authority, the text of the reg, the time and place, and where copies of the regulation can be obtained, and a specific deadline for those comments rather than close of business. So we would say 5 p.m. on December 31st. There is the next section, at the bottom of page 3, and that's just a synopsis of the small business impact statement. Again, I will look into revising those and see what updates are required, if any. I'm reading from page 4 now, the executive order, number 45. So there's additional notice requirement at page 46 of the manual. And then jumping down to the conduct of the hearing, there are no statutory prescriptions on how the hearings are conducted, but and we can come to some consensus about that, but I would suggest that we follow the regulations and use Robert's Rules of Order as the regulations require for any other meeting. I'll have to find out about whether or not we're going to have to provide remote access. But these meetings, I don't know, obviously they have to be open to the public. Somebody had a question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, for sure, Beverly. The only thing that I was going to offer is at a recent experience with a draft set of regulations, the meeting was hybrid, number 1. People came, but we also had the opportunity for the public to weigh in and comment during the public hearing process, to state what they needed to state. And in addition to, at the beginning of the actual hearing, a statement was made in 3 languages within the community where the hearing was taking place. If it was an environmental justice community, we ensured that the statement initially was noted. In this case, it was Spanish, Portuguese, and Cape Verdean. And the statement was, if you need translation services, please raise your virtual hand or let us know, and we will be ensuring that your comments are translated. So there's that nuance that just my recent experience with public hearings, and the presiding officer made that noted.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, we're going to have to look into the number of languages, the different languages. So I will
Yep.
scope all
And-
that out.
Yep, it's predicated on the location where the hearing is, because it could be that the hearing is not held in an environmental justice community, and if it isn't, then I believe it's fine. But I think, again, that coordination, and there are environmental justice maps that are available to discern what are the languages that are relevant for that actual conversation.
Yeah, because I can think of places in Lowell, where there might be a different language required other than Spanish or Portuguese.
Yeah, if
it's
limited English proficiency.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I am now at page 6, and what I'm going to briefly go through here, and then kind of speed through this, are the requirements. So in terms of what we have to present, there are charts and drawings. I'm so sorry. Charts and drawings requirements on page 6, and we do have some graphics, and any non-text material, I'm reading from the final paragraph under charts and drawings, any non-text is considered graphics, and we do have some graphics in section 3.09 with respect to the colleges and universities and credits and those sorts of things. We do have some appendices. I'm now on page 7 that we have to look at, and there is the preparation of the draft copy of the regulation that, these things have a lot of specificity. If you look down at the bottom of page 7, luckily for us, we can use Microsoft Word. So, in the old days, they used to prescribe the type of fonts you could use and all of that. But, a Word document, it's also Word Perfect is available to us. So on page 8, there is a calendar for permanent regulations and what we have to do 35 days before, 21 days before, and after the public hearing. So they pretty much set out everything. I wanted to close and then open the floor for comments or further suggestions by looking at part 2. Starts on page 9, and this is the fine-tooth comb through which we're going to have to process all the hard work we've already done in terms of meeting these criteria, titles, chapters, organization, and how to draft regulations. In particular, I'm on page 11. And making sure that this final revision, that the final revisions are clear, simple English. You might want to scroll down a little bit, and the differences between shall and may, each and any, every, any person, no person. And just the full panoply on pages 11 and 12 of how we can simplify the regulation drafts. That was all I had. Are there any questions that we need to respond to, or suggestions or comments in the last 8 minutes of our meeting? Okay. Given that, and there's still time, which section would you like to attack first? I've sent you all the drafts for 7, 8, and 2.00. Okay. I'm thinking then I want you folks to weigh in. I thought we would begin at the beginning and start with 2.0.
Hey, Beverly, it's Paul McKinley. Just to let you know, I finally got on. I apologize for that.
Oh, great. Welcome, Paul. Thank you.
And Beverly, it's fine to start with your suggested section 2.
Okay. Okay. We should begin at the beginning, folks, at section 2. Okay. All right. So for our next meeting, we are going to look at 2.00, which you already have. I'll send it again in preparation for the meeting. You should look through all the drafts, compare it with the final, and specifically look at whether or not, because what we're doing with this final review is going through pages part 2, pages 9 through 12, drafting regulation. We want to make sure that what we send to EEA for review is as complete as possible, so that they're not making, and I'm sure it's going to be inevitable that they'll suggest or make some changes, but next meeting we'll start with 2.0 with the specific language and drafting regulations from that the manual describes. That was all I had. Are there any questions? Okay.
Yeah, this sounds good. Thank you, Beverly.
All right. All right. So I have my homework. Thank you. And I'll turn the meeting over. We're adjourning the regulations meeting at 12:25 p.m. And I'm I yield the floor to Mr. Austin for continuing education.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm starting the continuing ed meeting at 12:26. For roll call, I have Craig, Gail, Deb, Jamie, Kirk, Kathy, Millie, myself, Greg, and Paul. Anyone else? And Chris, can you let us know who's on from the public, please?
Yes, from the public right now, we have Daniel Taylor, Kristen Lefebvre, Lori McCarthy, Rebecca Buswell, Seth Malofsky, and Wendy Rundle just went offline. She was online, but I don't know if she's having connection issues.
Okay, thanks.
David, would you be so kind as to repeating the roster so I can mimic it? I appreciate that. Just went a little bit fast for me.
Sure. Craig, Gail, Deb, Jamie, Kirk, Kathy, Millie, David, Greg, and Paul.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we'll just go right to new business. There's 2 new course approval requests. The first one is from EPOC or EPOC. It's ArcGIS online course, 4 credits in May, in person. I assume there hasn't been a course like this, so I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussions from the board or the public?
This is Debbie. I just had a question. Is it 2 days, May 18th and 19th, the same course on our sheet?
Yes,
Has two dates.
it's the
I
same
didn't see,
course, just two different offerings.
okay, I didn't see that in the request in the state.
I didn't catch that. So yes, 2 offerings.
Okay.
Hey,
thank
David,
you.
Matt here. Just want to let you know there was an announcement that they're going to offer a third offering as well
Okay,
for the
great.
same course. It's going to be May 18th, 8 to 12 in the morning.
Well, that's too bad. They should do it later, so it's in my next renewal period. So a yes is approval. Craig? Craig?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes,
Deb?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Millie?
Yes.
David's a yes. Greg?
Yes.
And Paul?
Yes.
The second request is also from EPOC, and I'm not sure what the request is for because it's an existing course. Is it because they're doing it as a live webinar, there's a new instructor, or because it's a new provider?
Yes, it's a new provider. Again, it was the course 1799 presented by the LSPA. Matt, can you tell us whether or not the faculty is the same or there are any other changes?
I can
Yeah,
tell you that
yeah.
it's the
Go ahead.
same. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, yes, we did confirm that the instructor is the same as the one that taught the course 1799 that the LSPA was the provider for. So everything's the same in terms of the instructor, the agenda, pretty much identical.
So we're approving just a different provider, and we have to go through the roll call and approve it?
But it would be the same, it would be the same course number.
Correct.
Yes,
So
and
do
all
we
you
have an
want
action?
yeah, that was the question. Do you want to add a letter designation to distinguish this offering and from the previous provider's offering?
I
Yes, I
don't think
believe
there's any difference. It's the identical course.
Okay.
All right.
So there's no action that we need to take. It's approved course, and they can put it on. So moving on to course reapproval requests, these were 2 from February. We asked for some clarification. The first one was geology, hydrogeology, and chemistry, 6 technical credits. It was an in-person course last November. They provided an explanation of the course, paragraph or so. What did people think about that? It seems to me like it's just a technical course at this point, and it could be used in New England, Massachusetts.
It's Greg. I agree.
I agree with that, David.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on it or can we just? Did we vote
Well,
on it? Did we already
No, we
approve
need-
it?
No, it
we
was
need to approve it.
tabled. It was,
That's what I thought.
yeah,
It's not a
go ahead.
reapproval.
Just before we move on, I got a text from some folks who are having troubles getting onto the meeting.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people already email me, so I'm going back and forth. It looks like people need to probably restart their browsers. That's what worked for a few other people.
Right. And they can also call in, use the telephone number and call in if they don't have access. And the call-in for Massachusetts is 1-562-247-8422. The access code is 716-113-422. I don't know whether or not they were able to even hear me, but
Is that phone
yeah,
number
I think that.
Is that phone number on the website? Report?
No, it's on the, well, yeah, it's on the event detail, the link that people get sent. All that information's on there. And that's all
It's in the
posted to
link.
the, yep.
Right, right. So if they are continuing ed providers, I sent a separate invitation to them, the public, with the new link, and it's also on the website under the open meeting law notice.
Okay, well, they have that info. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
I guess is approving this course for 6 hours from last fall. Craig,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
David's a yes, Greg,
Yes.
and Paul.
Yes.
So the second one was also one that we had kicked back to them in February, and they provided an explanation of the class, ecological evaluations. It was in January. What do folks think about it?
It's clearly relevant to MCP activities.
Yeah, and David, it's a topic that sometimes does not get enough prime time as it should with ecological risk characterizations. So that would be helpful.
That's fine. I'm still, there was a motion to approve.
I think Jamie made it, yes?
Kirk,
Yep. Kirk.
is there a second?
Second.
Second.
I think it's funny that they still added a sentence saying they will drill down into how the New Jersey LSRP program works. And I'm wondering if they had polling questions. I went back to the materials from February and they didn't say how they were going to keep track of attendance since this was a live webinar. So I think if we approve it, it should be contingent on them having had polling questions for attendance or some other way to keep track of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want polling questions information, not the questions themselves as you indicated in the past. Okay.
Yeah, how did they
We'll
keep track of attendance for this live webinar that took place in January?
Yep. Yep.
So yes
Very
is
good.
approving the course. Craig,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
David is yes, Greg,
Yes.
and Paul.
I'm a yes.
Great. And then there's two course announcements, both by the LSPA, and both in the month of May, next month. So that wraps up the continuing ed meeting at 12:37.
Hey, David. I was hoping you would
Yes.
allow for more comment on the other business. Is it too late?
Oh, no.
Okay. I did want to, if I could have a minute on the floor.
Sure, we got lots of time.
Okay. I did attend a course last week. I just wanted to provide some description and maybe some issues. It was the April 4th LSPA course called Incident Command for LSPs. It was actually the last course of the day for their day-long symposium out in Marlborough. The course started at 6:30. It was a 1-hour course. when I got there right around 6:30, the room was pretty full. It was a good turnout. I stood in the back and kind of just observed things and listened in. And about halfway through, about 7 o'clock, 2 people left the course and didn't return. So I just wanted to provide a reminder that these in-person courses that we're getting back into after the pandemic, they still require attendance records. That's 309.3095A. And also to remind people that if the course is less than 4 hours, 100% attendance is required to get any credit. That's 309.7B.
Okay. I was
you.
there for that afternoon and evening, and I did not attend. I stood outside for a little bit. And people who left early could be people who were taking it for no credit.
Possibly. Yeah.
But you did have that choice to just attend without credit. But thank you. It was a good afternoon, chance for people to get a few DEP credits. The rooms were packed. Any other discussions or comments people want to make? So finishing the meeting once again at 12:39. Thank you.
So now, Jamie or Kurt, you can decide who's going to co-chair or which of the co-chairs will conduct the professional conduct meeting.
Sure, I'll do it. I'll call to order the professional conduct meeting at 12:39. In terms of the meeting minutes, it looks like we're all up to date there, and those are posted through March. Any other old business?
Under the category of old business, the active cases table will be making its re-debut at the May 9th meeting. And so you'll understand a little more fully when I give the report on the cases. But we're going to dust it off and bring it back out so that we'll have some active measurements for next steps in the current status of each of the cases.
It's great news. Looking forward to that.
Yes, yes. I know you like to. But I know, Jamie, you like it. I'm teasing you, but it is very helpful and very important. And so now that Matt is, of course, joined the team, we're going to get that out.
I think it'll be
we've
really
already
helpful
started revising it
as well.
Yes, especially after restarting all these cases after this length of time. So you'll have a piece of paper in front of you with the designated next steps and prior procedural history, who's on the team, a lot of board members. We've had a number of changes. We've had some recusals and that sort of thing. So I'll explain a little more when I give the individual reports under new business.
Great. I guess with that, if you could give us your report on the status of the CRTs.
Sure. So 05C, as everyone knows, is under advisement. I haven't heard anything different from the Attorney General's office. I know that as soon as the AAG gets the decision, she'll pass it along. 08C, there's still an outstanding final decision that's due.
Oh my God, that's a better one. I had a lot of fun with that.
I'm sorry, the 12C01, that case is with OADR, and as you know, there's the LSP in that case is the same LSP as in 05C. That's been prior he or she was prior identified. Okay, in 18C01, Matt received the documents, and he is currently reviewing the file and drafting questions. It is our hope to review those questions with the reconvening of the CRT May of 2023 for the CRT meeting. We're hoping to schedule the LSP's interview 30 days thereafter, which would be sometime in June of 2023. In 18C02, that LSP has been interviewed. I had begun a draft of the CRT report. Matt is recused from that case, so I'm going to have to finish the CRT report, and it's pretty comprehensive. So I'll be able to do that. 20C01 and 20C02, those were preliminary investigations, and I'm just going to draft a brief report for the board members to see whether or not this should go any further. If you recall, those were two cases of LSPs. The incident occurred out of the same set of operational facts, which is why they were our companion cases. So I think that if I can draft a memorandum, and I'll try and have that done before our June recess, so that the board can take a vote on that. There are no complaints. In both cases there are responses received from the LSPs. So you'll have an opportunity to look at those. And that is for June of 2023. In 21C01, I want to jump to that case. Matt is currently reviewing the file and is beginning to redact both the complaint and the LSP response. It is our hope that that case will be presented to the Professional Conduct Committee at the May 9th meeting. 22C01, also a voluminous case, but Matt is reviewing the file. He is starting the redaction process for the complaint and the LSP response. It is our hope to have that case redacted and presented to the Professional Conduct Committee at either the June 13th, 2023 meeting or the August board meeting, the schedule of which has not been confirmed. And I think that was all I had. Oh, I wanted to talk briefly about the redaction software. As you know, we had redaction software, so Matt is starting the redaction process by hand. When we moved to Cambridge Street, the software that I had purchased was loaded onto a particular computer, and IT is trying to find that software. And it made it very easy. It was kind of a find and replace version of software, so they're looking to see whether or not it was loaded up someplace else. If necessary, I'm going to buy I will repurchase the same software. It's something that the board uses obviously again and again. So if IT cannot locate it on its system, I'll have to buy it again. And that was the final item. Are there questions?
Beverly, did you have an update on 20C04? I don't think.
No, I don't
Mention
have
that
an
one.
update on 20. Nope, I did not mention it. I don't have an update for it. I'll have an update for 20C04 at the May 5th meeting. I'm sorry, the May 9th meeting. I did skip that one. Thank you, Jamie. I should have made an announcement about that.
Great, thank you. Do we have any new business?
No new business.
It's good. All right. Well, with that, if there are no further questions, I will adjourn the meeting. Next meeting, May 9th, 12:48.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this LSP board meeting to order at 12:48 p.m. Announcements. Are there any announcements to be shared with the board or the public? Hearing none, we will move on to our next item, agendas. So the agenda that we have is available for review, and I'm asking at this time if there's any additions or deletions or any changes to the agenda.
I would like to add an item under number 6, and that would be 6C, retirement.
Okay, so under 6,
Thank
we're going to add retirement.
Yes, as 6C.
Okay. Thank you. So with that, the modified agenda, I'd like to adopt it as our final meeting agenda with that addition. Virtual meeting minutes, as noted by other committee chairs, these have been all updated and they're posted through March 2023. So with that, let's move on to decisions. And today we need to vote on 3 separate renewal dockets. The first one consists of 14 LSPs whose license had a renewal date of January 30, 2023. I actually want to clarify that in fact it is a January 2023 renewal. We're addressing January 2023 licenses, Beverly.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that in fact it is a renewal date of January 30, 2023, and the fact that after completing all the requirements, these LSPs now have a new license date of January 30, 2026.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
All right, thank you.
One person is listed twice,
Who is that?
Mark Germano.
10 and 12.
Thank you. So please, board members, only vote for Mr. Germano once.
Do we know?
I make a motion to approve the docket.
Second,
Okay, so any discussions regarding the docket? Hearing none, a yes is going to vote, it's going to signal an approval. So Craig,
Yes.
Gail,
yes,
Deb,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Kirk, Kathy,
Yes.
Millie is a yes, David,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and Paul.
Yes.
Okay, so motion carries. Then we have docket number 2, and that consists of 5 LSPs. Mr. Germano is not included in that docket. And it consists of 5 LSPs whose license had a renewal date of January 30, 2023, and they actually were associated with a 90-day extension. So their new license renewal date is January 30, 2026.
Motion
They
to approve
completed-
docket number 2.
Okay, second.
Second.
Do we have any comments or questions regarding this docket? Hearing none, a yes is going to signal your approval to move forward. Greg,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Kirk, Kathy,
Yes.
Millie is a yes, David,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and Paul.
Yes.
Motion carries, docket is approved. And then finally, docket 3 consists of 5 LSPs whose license had a renewal date of April 30, 2023. They completed the requirements and now they have a new license renewal date, which is April 30, 2026. Motion to approve. And do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion about this docket? Questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, a yes vote signals your approval. Craig,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Kirk, Kathy,
Yes.
Millie is a yes, David,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Motion carries, docket is approved. Item 6 through 12, Beverly, if you would be so kind as to provide the board with a status report out for these items.
Sure. Thank you, Millie. So obviously 6A, there are 447 LSPs as of April 6th. There are no LSPs currently on inactive status. I wanted to announce under item 6C, the retirement, William H. Mitchell Jr., William J. Malio, with apologies to Mr. Malio if I'm mispronouncing his name, and Michael Answorth. The January renewal, I wanted to just make a comment about that, a couple of comments, sorry, under item number 7. In the January renewal, there were 119 LSPs. It's the largest quarter we've had in a while. Of the 119, 72 were approved at the February 14th, 2023 meeting. So that left another 29 or so who we had not heard from. Either there was no paperwork, but there was payment, or there was payment, but no paperwork, or there was nothing. Some people, again, sent their paperwork to the lockbox, which, as you know, we don't receive. So I sent notices to each LSP, and I did this via electronic mail to each group on March 23rd and March 24th, and that was the result of the docket, the first docket being having so many folks. It wasn't that these folks were late in getting their paperwork in. It was that revenue hadn't found the payment, or the paperwork was sent to the lockbox or something, but there was no penalization of anybody who had actually made their payment or forwarded their paperwork. What I allowed folks to do, which is what we've done all during the pandemic and even before, is if they received a letter saying they didn't pay or they didn't send their submit their paperwork, they had an opportunity to just scan it and email it to me, and many of them did. So that was item 7. Under the item 7, April renewal, The letters went out, the invoices went out a little later this year, but I didn't receive them from revenue until March 21st. And I prepared there were 20 in that April renewal cycle. So we've already received 5 completed renewals out of that 20. They were, the notices were postmarked 3/22. There's some confusion. I mean, I'm doing all of this myself from past lists, so we're getting it done. I do want to make note of the fact that all of the 72 LSPs who were approved at the March and February meetings have had their information updated on the website. I have an IT contact who is enabling me to provide those updates. No one has received their wall certificate. I'll talk about that in a bit when I get to personnel.
Beverly, this is Greg. Can I just ask, since you had 29 who were non-responsive in February, have you received anything from others of that 29 since then?
Yes, and most of those are the folks who are on docket number 1, Greg.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, those are when I sent the emails. There are a couple of folks who have not responded at all. They had not their email addresses. I got a delivery failure when I sent them. So there are 3 of those people that I've heard nothing from. But yes, the 13 people in docket number 1 are people who responded saying, no, the letter's wrong, I sent my payment in, or I sent it to the lockbox. We've tracked up payments and documents down and conducted a review. Is that helpful, Greg?
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the annual fees. As you know, we don't have a program coordinator to figure out who has paid. So, and it's time for the 2.09 notices to start being sent to the 447 LSPs. So I'm working with revenue to track down payments for annual fees. We have a number of issues going back and forth about, for instance, the Beverly Roby Company sending payments for 6 LSPs but not having the license numbers on them. Or revenue has told, and so I've had to contact the companies to try and track down who these payments were for. All we have is the amount. And I also have revenue contacting me saying they've received checks with no LSP number on it. So we're going by check number. I call the company and give them the check number, and they look to see where it was issued and for whom. So it's kind of a complicated process, but I want to get started on the 209 notices because obviously they're very important. They have to be sent via certified mail. So I'm trying to reconcile all 447 payments with revenue. So that task is ongoing. Any further questions on renewal fees or annual fees? Okay. I'd like to move to item number 10, which is a discussion of 3.092A. There is an LSP whose license was lapsed, and that LSP took courses during the period while his or her license was lapsed. And he or she wanted to know whether or not those courses taken during the lapse period could be applied to a subsequent renewal period.
Beverly, how have we handled that in the past?
Well, this is why it's before you, because we haven't had not quite this situation. Someone whose license is lapsed comes under, 3.064 or 5. Either they didn't renew or they didn't, because they didn't have enough credits, or they didn't meet the 90-day extension deadline. So we've never quite had someone ask whether or not the credits that were earned during the lapse period could be used in a subsequent renewal period, 2025.
Beverly, was the lapse period long or short, or give us an approximate number of months?
I may not have that information. The credits were earned during the 2022 renewal period. I guess that my supposition is, and I'm pulling up the email for the exact information right now, is that the LSP's license lapsed during his or her 2022 renewal period, and they took courses above and beyond what was required during that lapse period, and they wanted to apply those additional credits to another renewal period in 2025. And the rule is kind of silent on what makes this unique, Greg, if I'm responding to the correct person, is that the license was lapsed.
Right.
It's not like the person was, the LSP was in good standing when he or she earned those additional credits. He or she
And
was
that
not.
LSP is now in good standing?
Yes. Yes.
Was or was not? I'm sorry, Beverly.
Go ahead, Millie. I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
I apologize. Was or was not in good standing?
Was not.
Okay.
When the additional credits were earned, they were earned during the lapse period, right?
Right. So, I mean, I guess my only comment, and for others to weigh in, and you're calling out a case that's unique for the reasons you've presented, it sounds to me that often the struggle is LSPs that either cannot avail themselves to courses, but in this case appears that the person was trying to at least not have that as a reason why not to bring themselves up to speed with regards to putting themselves back on good standing. So to me, it's incentivizing. I just don't see any harm in somebody working their way through attending courses, maintaining performance standards and knowledge content during the period by which they're just trying to at least, that should not go by the wayside, that effort. That's just my opinion.
Okay, the only reason I bring this up is because this is kind of a gap in the reg, because what the reg says, 2A, is that you can't carry over credits from one renewal period into the next. Does that standard apply to someone whose license is lapsed?
Right.
Wait, you can carry 6 over, right? Licensee may carry up to 6 credits towards his or her next renewal period, provided the credits were earned within 6 months of the current renewal date.
That's in our new reg changes.
Oh, am I looking at the?
Yeah.
It wasn't in the old. I guess my question, this is Kathy, is that when her license was reinstated, which I understand has happened, then they start a new period like that. Does that start a new 3-year period? And if so, then what happened before? That wouldn't count.
What you're doing, board members, is interpreting this statute. This regulation and applying it to these particular circumstances. So
I think it's what I'm trying to understand is if the reason why the LSP was, he or she was not in good standing was because of lack of credits, how do we promote the opportunity for that person to gain the credits during that status?
Well, they
I mean,
have to
appears,
gain the state. They have to obtain the credit, the 48, within that
so,
year. And this LSP did that. But what he or she is saying is that they earned during the 2022 renewal period when he or she was lapsed, they earned over and above the 48. And they want to bring what they earned over and above the 48 into the 2025 carryover into the 2025 renewal.
Beverly, does that mean that they're splitting a course from like credits? Meaning like if he took like, got 4 credits but only needed 2, he wants to bring the additional 2 over? Or is it an additional course?
That's a good question. I didn't get that deep in the weeds. So if you want me to go back and ask that specific question of the LSP, I will. But I see what you're saying. Is this course 1699 that was for 4 credits, and the LSP is trying to split 2 credits for 1699 and use those in the 2022 renewal, and then take 2 credits and use them in the 2025 renewal. That was the question, right?
Correct, yes. Yep.
Beverly, this is Greg. I would say I wouldn't even bother going back and ask that question. I don't think that
Okay.
should apply at all. Any unique separate course that wasn't already used either in part or in whole should be counted. If we decide to allow that person, then my opinion is that I don't see a problem allowing the over and above unique courses, but we certainly wouldn't want them to split. These are for a person to split those courses.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't an LSP in good standing not allowed to carry forward credits into like a renewal period?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If the current regs don't allow that, well, then why would this circumstance?
Why would we allow a LSP not in good standing to carry forward credits if you can't,
yeah.
But with the renewal then goes back to the original renewal date. They're not gaining, it's not like the old registration of your car where you just, not registration, but inspection, you just get to start it over again. This reverts back to when your renewal date was and is renewed.
So was the renewal modified when the LSP became good standing, or were the credits earned in sort of in the original default, renewal period?
No.
The credits were earned in the default period. With it, the LSP came back into good standing within 1 year under 3.06.
Got it.
Okay. And Beverly, in the process, they earned more. Now they want to have credit for those extra earned credits, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So now that I understand.
Like I said, they met the 48 standard, and maybe this person, I don't know the exact number. This part I'm improvising, but the person earned 52 credits, let's say, and they wanted to carry the additional. However, I don't know the number exactly. I didn't take that information because it's a board decision whether or not to do it at all.
Yeah, no, I think being able to talk through the scenario is really helpful, so we know what exactly what we're weighing in and commenting on. So I appreciate that. Understanding. Hello?
Sorry, Millie, go ahead.
No, I was just going to suggest that understanding the circumstances and noting that there's a gap in the regulations that definitely warrants some conversation, maybe how to apply this potential dilemma, to good standing LSPs and noting that there's a cap above, maybe that's good guidance for us to come to some conclusion on this. And Jamie, you wanted to weigh in?
No, I just wanted to ask Beverly. So the renewal dates don't actually move when someone cures their lapse status. Is that right?
Nope, it doesn't change. They go back right back to January 30th.
Okay.
Or July 30th. So that doesn't change. There are some circumstances when the renewal date could change, but that's not one of them.
That's what I wanted to verify.
Yeah, because if you go out, Jamie, on January 30th, that's the benchmark. You have to come back in before January 30th, and your renewal date is the same.
Okay, so technically these credits that they were earning during the last period, they were earning them during their current renewal period, basically.
Yeah, that 1 year extension the lapsed year. They were earned during the lapsed year.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve this.
Yeah.
I think this is okay.
Why is it okay? Grounds I'm asking for.
For the reasons I just stated. I mean, their renewal date remains the same. They actually earn the credits during their current renewal period. So it makes sense to me that this should be allowable.
Yeah, Jamie, I would include in your motion that excess credits from courses used for the for the previous period should not be allowed. So that no splitting of credits within course.
Okay.
Does it matter when those last credits were taken? And I'm just asking because I think the timeline does matter. So I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, Millie, it's Paul here. I have the same concern. It would only be credits earned during the renewal period. That would be applicable, right? The 3 years.
Whether it's
not the 4 period.
Yeah, whether it's lapsed or not lapsed.
Applied to the license renewal application.
Yeah, that's why I asked that question.
Yeah, because it sounds like you're going to allow this LSP, contrary to the regulations, to carry over credit into another renewal period.
No.
I mean, that's
no.
Okay, then I don't understand the board's decision or the motion that's pending. So if you can help me with that,
the reason I asked the question that I asked was about the current, when the credits were taken during the lapse period is technically in his current renewal period.
Right.
Right. So that's the reason I would justify it.
So if we can clarify this, there are 48 or some credits, correct? It appears the majority of those credits were taken during the time that this LSP's, he or she's license was lapsed, or they were not in good standing. They brought themselves back to good standing. And my question is, were any of those credits that we're talking about, the up and above credits, were they taken during the period of time when this person was in good standing? I'm just trying to understand at what point is the pre-post period so that we can have.
Yeah. Okay, Millie, you raised a good question, and I am going to suggest that the board table this item, and I will get more specific information on exactly the courses and all that information so that you can make a well-reasoned decision, because this has precedent-setting implications in terms of allowing somebody to carry over credit when the rule says no. So I will get all the detail. I have Jamie's question about when. I have whoever, I'm not sure if I'm misstating, correct me, Paul's question or Greg's question about splitting course credit. And I'll get all of that information so you can make a well-reasoned decision. This is completely able, this matter is completely able to be tabled until the next board meeting because the LSP doesn't have to renew his or her license until October 30th of 2025.
Okay, that's much appreciated, Beverly. I think
Okay.
having, the timeline matters and the status
Yep.
within that timeline matters.
Okay, and I'll get all the details. I'll get
Thank
all
you.
the details. You're welcome, and present that at the excuse me, May 9th, 2023 meeting. Very good. Okay, any further discussion? The matter's tabled, and I can I'll provide further information on that item. I wanted to move on down the line, and sorry,
I think it's exam committee report.
lost. Yeah, thank you. I found it. All right. So I had a wishful thinking moment in terms of getting the exam committee together. I was not able to do that. So I will have an exam committee meeting, pardon me, scheduled before the next board meeting on 5/9. And I want to thank my committee members for their patience. There are some regular folks who show up for every meeting and respond, and I just couldn't get the dates right with everybody's schedule in mind, but I promise I'll have a date before the next board meeting. Moving to item number 12, the 2023 LSP exam. First of all, the software license expires in May, and I just found out that it expires about a week or so ago. I don't even know how we're going to get this paid, but Chris Borges needs this information to set up the exam for taking. He has to add any updates and all of that. So I'm going to make sure that the contract is doesn't expire if I have to pay it myself and get reimbursed. We will have to select a location and date. Currently, we have approximately 6 candidates. We have received 2 new applications that I will present at the May board meeting. And they may or may not be approved. So there are 6 or 7 candidates who are eligible to take the exam, including Ms. Wolf, who you extended her eligibility to sit for the exam at the March board meeting. Any questions about items up through 12? All right, I'll yield the floor back to Millie.
Okay, thank you, Beverly. All right, so David, if you'd be so kind as to provide us with the continuing education committee report out.
The continuing ed committee met today. We approved 3 courses, and there were notices of 3 others being given. And next meeting is in May, next month.
Okay, so we are going to, I apologize, we're gonna move to adopt the recommendations
Correct.
from the committee. And do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions regarding the recommendations? So hearing none, a yes vote signals that you basically vote to adopt the recommendations. So we'll start with Craig.
Okay. Sorry. Thanks.
And I know there's multiple microphones that are at play at this moment. If you don't mind muting yourself if you're not speaking.
Based on the EPOC comments that were provided. Great. Thanks, Tim.
Hello?
I'm here,
Board
Millie.
members,
I
if
don't
you
know
don't
about
mind. Yeah.
You've
If
got
board members
you've got a
don't
lot
mind.
of background noise. Yeah.
Yep. I think the microphones are on green signal for some members. If you're not talking, just mute yourself. But we're going to start with the roster, please. So a yes is a vote to adopt the recommendations. So we'll start with Craig
Yes.
and Gail,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Kirk, Kathy,
Yes.
Millie is a yes, David,
Yes.
and Greg,
Yes.
and Paul.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries to adopt the recommendations. There were no old or new business discussed, correct? David? None
Correct.
discussed? Okay, thank you.
Correct. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No
I've moved
worries.
on.
That's fine. Thank you. So
You're welcome.
Jamie, if you could provide the board with the status, the professional
Sure.
conduct meeting. Thank you.
Professional conduct committee meeting, there were no actions taken that require a vote by the board. However, of note, 18 CO1 is currently under review by our investigator with the CRT to be convened shortly. 18 CO2, Beverly is drafting the CRT reports. And there are several items expected for presentation at the next two meetings. 21 CO1 redaction is being completed for the May 9th meeting, and 22 CO1 for the June or August meeting, and that's brief summary.
Okay, great. Thank you. And board members, if you could kindly please mute your phones if you're not speaking, just to try to avoid the background noise. Much appreciated. And Beverly, if you could give us a report out for items 15A through D.
Sure. Excuse me. So as to item 15A, we talked briefly about the process for reviewing the proposed reg amendments under Chapter 38, Section 2. We went through the manual and talked about specifics in terms of deadlines and publication. And again, I'm taking your suggestions. Please email me. I'm happy to have them as to publication possibilities. And we also went through the small business impact statement and what has to be contained in that. And we talked about drafting regulations, specifically, I think at pages 8 through 12 of the regulations manual from the Secretary of State. So when we reconvene in May, on May 9th, we're going to start working to finalize section 2.0 in terms of language and all the rest of it. I think that was it. Under item 15A, personnel budget and fees. As you know, the program coordinator is on leave. Leave was granted until June. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of a permanent placement at the end of the program coordinator's leave. I have narrowed the search down to 3 possibilities for temp, but I have to get that paid for through EEA has indicated that they're going to pay for the temp, but to date, I haven't hired anyone. So the good news is it won't come out of our budget. The bad news is I'm still doing my job, the general counsel's job, and now the program coordinator's job. And as you know, Barbara and the functions that she handled were just so important to the board operations. So not having her or a person in that place is making it really difficult. So we'll see. I wanted to talk, so that's bad news. I want to talk about 15C, which is all good news all the time. We are continuing to meet with our online team, and I have some updates. Excuse me. Most of the development for the Acela platform has been completed. Excuse me. We are in the demo phase, which means we are in the final steps of this process. All 447 LSPs, licensees will be moved to the Acela platform. The tech team is going to merge that data set so that information will automatically be updated for every LSP who is a client using the Acela platform. Excuse me. So the board's website will be automatically repopulated with the new information. For example, the 13 LSPs whose licenses were renewed, or the 5 April, the January or the 5 April renewal will automatically be renewed on the website. So on April 6th, we reviewed the application portion, because what we're doing is going through each demo section by section. On Thursday, the 13th of this week, we're going to review the renewal process. I do have one question for the board members, but our target date for launch is still June or July of 2023. I wanted to give one example of the workflow process and talk briefly about how this miracle is going to work. But the applicant, for the exam process, for example, there'll be filters for everything. The software in Acela is going to be so sensitive that based on the number of applicants that will be listed in the database, it will tell me how many days of an exam I will need. The applicants will be automatically notified of their options to take the exam. And as workflow manager, they'll get a transaction number for everything that they complete. And the exam schedule will be created. The workflow tasks will filter through. That is, the applicants will say, these are the dates, please pick 2. They'll get a receipt. They'll then get a confirmation. You have been confirmed for date 1, and they'll get a receipt. Everything, all of this will be populated. It will track which exam the applicant takes, how many exams the applicant has taken. We do all of this by spreadsheet manually now, but Acela is going to do all of that for us. So I just wanted to give you a brief example of how the workflow process will go. My one question for the board on this is, there is a question on the application that says extra education credit. And I'm not sure how to word that. So I'm going to send all of the board members an email about this particular question, because I don't think it's something on the application form that I can change without your input. So I am going to send around an email before the next board meeting seeking your input about that. And that was all I had about the online. Are there any questions about the online process? Very good. The last thing I wanted to talk about was item 15D, and that's the extension of the remote access executive order I sent around on March 30th, March 31st to the board members. Notice that Governor Healy has extended the open law remote access executive order to March 31st, 2025. Specifically, this means that public bodies can continue to hold meetings remotely. And as long as we provide adequate alternative access to the meetings. No other changes in the open meeting law. Governor Healy did not make any other changes. She just extended the date. Are there any questions about any of the reports I gave?
What does it mean for meetings for this board for the next 2 years? Is it automatically going to be virtual, all of them, for the next 2 years?
It can be.
Well, let me just approve it anyway so that you can get it to Jen.
Yep, they can be.
So that's an option, but not necessarily a requirement, correct?
I don't want you to do it until I know. Oh, I don't do it, so you got me.
You can say that again, Millie? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, just, I'm just hearing a little bit of background noise here. So it's an option, but not a requirement. Is that correct? I just don't know.
Yes. I assume so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
It's an option that can be used, but I have, this is Greg, I've felt for a long time that it's unhealthy for us to do only virtual. I think we lose a lot by not being face to face and being able to discuss things. This is it was a necessity. It now is to be remote, but now it is optional, and I think it's something that we can use for a portion of the time, but I think we should also strive to have in-person meetings.
I agree with you,
I
Greg.
agree. I know of a few board members who want to stay virtual, and I appreciate that, but I agree with you, Greg. And I also think it's would be much better for the public. All they can do right now is type in comments, which I think is not a good meeting.
Right, good point.
Yeah, but it meets the requirement. I want to be clear about that.
I know.
Adequate access.
It's still,
yeah.
It does.
No,
Yeah,
that's
still not a good form of communication.
Hold on, David. Hold on.
I know you're going to defend it.
No, I'm not. You don't know what I'm going to do, David. Come on. Let me speak, and then you'll know what I'm going to say. I think that we could go to a hybrid model. I think that would be great, that we would do some of the meetings in person and some of the meetings virtual. And what I was going to suggest is that next at the June meeting, when we schedule our meetings for the next fiscal year, we can make that decision.
That's a great idea.
Yep.
I just want to suggest something from an IT point of view, if
Sure.
I might. One of the other options, and I know. Well, no, I just mean we're doing it with BWSC.
We're still going to record in person. We would still be recording, but go ahead, Chris, please.
Yeah. One of the things I know we're doing with some of our BWSC meetings is we're offering people the option of attending remotely, even if most of us, so half the office is in a meeting room having a meeting, and there's like 20 people online that are watching virtually, so that if board members for some reason couldn't or didn't want to be actually in a live meeting, I could still set up a system where they were able to see and hear and participate in the meeting, and members of the public could do the same.
Right. I agree. I think that it's 2023, things have reopened, and I agree that we should have a certain number of meetings that are in person. But Attendance has been much better virtual for all board members. It's easy, but I think that a hybrid model would be good because we'll still have the same benefit of being able to record the meeting. I think it's the best of both worlds, actually. So when we set the schedule in June, it's my recommendation that at that time we choose sites or make decisions about which meetings will be in person and which meetings will be virtual. Yeah, I think that
so
the location. So June.
So we're departing from the notion that I haven't heard from the rest of the board members, but it feels like there is opportunity for discussion with regards to the actual setup and then executing that conversation by way of selecting locations in June. That's what I'm hearing.
Right. I think, yes. I think, Millie, we should have a much fuller discussion and include everyone in this about locations because we will be meeting at some point, at 100 Cambridge Street, and we'll decide the locations with input from everyone.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any additional comments from board members or anyone with regards to this particular proposal? For full discussion in the next board meetings.
Yeah, Lori McCarthy just said, how many folks, non-board members, attended meetings in person prior to virtual meetings? Question. Even with the traveling meetings to different regional offices, I would not attend as frequently if I had to travel to Boston. The one meeting I did try to attend was in Springfield, and it was canceled due to an accident on I-90 that prevented a quorum of the board members from getting to Springfield.
Right. So, Ms. McCarthy, to answer your question, historically, we don't have a lot of folks attending the in-person meetings. Congratulations on trying to get to Springfield, because that is one where we rarely, if ever, had anyone attend. So I salute your efforts. But typically, we would have some DEP staff because the meetings were held in the regional offices, and there were always a couple of DEP staff at the regional offices who would sit in on the meetings. But in terms of members of the public, it was rare that we had more than a couple of continuing ed providers attend the meeting. The thing about the virtual meeting is that it enables a lot of folks who ordinarily wouldn't be able to participate to do that. And if we do the hybrid model, they'll still be able. I just want to make sure that continuing ed providers who only want to sit for a portion of the board's meetings are still able to do that without necessarily having to travel to Springfield or wherever we are. So that's my suggestion on a hybrid model. But to specifically answer your question, Ms. McCarthy, typically there were no more than a couple of people, members of the public, who attended, maybe some from the professional conduct committee, maybe a couple of applicants, who wanted to hear the discussion regarding their application to sit for the exam. I do remember, Ms. McCarthy, you attending. So not many is the final answer. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay, so we are now at the point where we will reaffirm our next virtual meeting will be held on let's see, where are we?
May 9th.
Is it May 9th?
Yes.
May 9th, 2023. And we are adjourning this meeting at 1:42 p.m. I'll see you in May.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.